You're about to uncover one of the most misunderstood yet powerful characters in Mandarin, especially for non-native speakers. It's one of those characters that consistently trips people up, even at advanced levels. But once you grasp how to use it, you'll have the key to expressing timing, intention, and results with clarity and precision. But first, if you don't know me, well, ni hao. I'm Phil Crimmins, co-founder and CEO of Mandarin Blueprint, and after living in China for 11 years and seeing the broken Chinese language education system firsthand, my buddy Luke and I set out on a mission to detail the ultimate blueprint for Mandarin fluency, and one of those details is the Chinese character jiu. Now, before we get into the usages of jiu, I want to show you how the character is broken down. So first of all, we have these two components. The left side component is the full Chinese character for jiu, which means capital. And naturally, I think of Beijing when I think of this character. So I like to think of the most iconic building to me in Beijing, which is the CCTV tower. That's the CCTV television network tower. It's such an interesting looking building. So for me, when I want to come up with a visual representation of this component, I like to imagine that building. Now, the right side component is pronounced you, and it means excellent or outstanding. So I like to imagine a trophy. That's what somebody would get if they were having an excellent or outstanding performance. So we have two props to try to remember this character: the CCTV building to represent the left side component, and a trophy to represent the right side component. But we also have a pronunciation here, jiu. Now, the two elements of this pinyin pronunciation are Ji and OU. Now, you'll notice that in pinyin, they don't spell out the O there, but this is pronounced jiu, right? So there is actually the O sound there. Therefore, we want to come up with a representation for these two elements of the pronunciation. First, for Ji, I like to imagine my Aunt Judy. See, in the Hanzi movie method, which is how we memorize characters, any I sound like ji, we imagine a female actor. So we have my Aunt Judy representing Ji. It could be somebody totally different for you, obviously. Now for OU, I like to imagine Sam Ash Music in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. I worked there for a few years and I had a manager named Joe. And so I imagine the O sound, Joe, that's Sam Ash Music. But then there's one more element here, which is that this is a fourth tone. And so fourth tone in the Hanzi movie method takes place behind the set that you're in. So you can think of Sam Ash Music as the set, and fourth tone is specifically at the loading dock in the back. Now, bear with me for a second because I'm going to share with you a full Hanzi movie method visualization for this character, and you'll see how it all works. Hey, quick one. Just wanted to let you know, if you click that link below this video, you can get lifetime access to the first 20 levels of the blueprint. We call it the Blueprint Lite. Totally free, whole community built around it to help you if you have any trouble. It's really easy. It's free. Check it out. Click that link. Back to the video. So I like to imagine Aunt Judy is standing outside the warehouse garage at Sam Ash Music. She's holding a shiny trophy in her hand, but she looks a little puzzled, thinking, where am I gonna put this? She glances around, unsure of where to place it. Suddenly, the ground starts to rumble, and the Beijing TV tower rises majestically from behind the garage. As the tower emerges, it also reveals a perfect trophy case at its base. Exactly what Aunt Judy needed. Her face lights up with relief and satisfaction. She walks over and places the trophy into the case with a smile, saying, "This is it. Exactly what I was looking for." So what the heck am I talking about here? Well, everything that came up in that scene, which I got an AI to generate an image of that scene, represents something about this character. You have Ji representing my Aunt Judy. You have the trophy representing the right side component. You have the CCTV tower representing Jing, interesting interpretation there by the AI. And then you have O is Sam Ash Music, and specifically in the back is the fourth tone. And why is it exactly what she needed? Because that's the key word we give for this character. Jiu often means exactly. The thing is though, jiu is a dynamic character. There are a lot of different usages for it. And today we have 8 concepts we're gonna cover. There's actually more to say about jiu after this, so we'll likely bring it up again in a later video. Today, we'll cover what we think are the most important 8. We'll start with the usage of jiu that refers to engaging in an activity. We'll show you how to express only in terms of small quantities, as in we only have 5 people working here. We'll discuss how to use 就 to express to the person you're talking to that you feel that something is happening early or doesn't take too long. And we're going to compare it against its opposite, 才. We'll also talk about getting close to someone or something. And then we're going to talk about a few conditional statements, how to say things like if this, then that, or as long as this, then that, or even if this, still that. We'll look at how chaining events together with 就 creates a natural flow in conversation, how to express your freedom to do whatever you want, whenever you want, using a very flexible structure. And finally, explore how to lay out an either-or scenario, where if it ain't this, it's that. So let's start with the engage function. When 就 is used to mean engage, it usually appears in words, in compound words of 2 or more characters. So I'm going to show you 6 words where 就 has this function. And we'll start with 就业. 就 means to engage, so 业 means occupation. Engage in an occupation, well, that means employment. 就业 just generally refers to employment, and here's an example of how you might use it. 毕业后，我一直在寻找海外的就业机会. I've been seeking overseas employment opportunities since graduation. And you'll see this is a bit of a formal word. In fact, most words where 就 is in a 2-character compound word, it leans formal. But imagine when somebody is just graduating, they're probably talking in a more formal way, aren't they? They're not just saying, I'm just looking for work. They're like, I'm looking for employment opportunities. I'm a graduate. How about this one? 就位. This means engage plus location or get close to your location. Well, this means to take one's place. You might hear it in the context of a plane ride. You might hear the captain come over the intercom. 飞机马上就要起飞了，乘务长，请就位. The plane is about to take off. Head attendant, please take your place. So you get here that, once again, a formal setting. Naturally, a captain is going to talk to his flight attendants in a slightly more formal way. And also, in this case, we're talking about like a team of people who are getting in position. You can imagine maybe the actors in a play are about to 就位 before the curtain rises, so they're in the right position when the play starts. Think of it like that. Now, if you ever hear 就座, for example, I like the idea of a play here as well. Perhaps you're out in the lobby of an auditorium where there's a play going on, and then you hear somebody come over the announcement and say 大家就座. That would mean take one's seat. So that's more of an example of like, all right, everybody's supposed to be somewhere, they're mingling around. Oh, everybody 就座, take your seat. Now, how about this one? 就餐, to engage plus meal. Well, that just means to dine. And once again, it's a bit more formal. So, for example, 由于疫情影响，很多人选择在家就餐. Due to the pandemic, many people chose to dine at home. And you can imagine that this might be a situation where a news broadcaster might be saying something like this. They're giving a report on how people are dining out less. And so they say 就餐 as opposed to just, 吃饭, right? And so it's a more formal way of suggesting that you're engaging in something. And I'm mostly bringing this up first because people always bring up how 就 is hard to understand. And oftentimes it's because they don't realize which of the usages they're seeing, right? So they might think that in this case, it's a grammatical function like 就餐, but wait, 餐 is not a verb. How does this work? It's because it's being used in this engage or move closer to something. How about this one? 就医. So engage in medicine. E can also mean doctor. So this just means seek medical treatment. For example, 汉娜现在身体不舒服，需要马上就医. Hannah is not feeling well right now and needs immediate medical attention. So once again, when somebody's in a medical emergency, you might speak a bit more formally. So that's why you just say 就医 as opposed to, for example, 看病 or 看医生. That would just mean to see the doctor or get your medical condition checked up on the doctor. But when you're calling 911 or something, or 120 in China, you would say 就医 because you're being a bit more formal in that instance. Now this one, 就要, engage will. Well, this actually means about to or soon. And I will cover more about this when we cover 要 later. But for now, suffice to say, you can use this to mean something is about to happen. For example, 天气暖和了，春天就要来了. The weather is getting warmer, spring is coming soon. Or 足球比赛就要结束了，看来巴西队赢定了。The soccer match is about to end. It seems Brazil is sure to win. And once again, we're looking at this as a structure. 就要 something 了. And that's why you can't always assume that 了 means the past tense, because in this case, we're speculating about the future. Like I say, there's other ways to say that something is about to happen, and there are a few extra rules you might want to learn about, but that's not the focus of this video. It's important just to recognize, though, that when you see 就要, that usually means something is about to happen. So there we have the engage function. What about when we have to express small quantities? Well, 就 is perfect for this type of situation. And there's a few different ways you can do it. So for example, you might have the subject plus 就 plus action or event, or you could switch it around and have 就 come before the subject, or you can have the subject 就 small quantity of something. I'll give examples for all of these. So take this. We have a subject 我 and an action or event 告诉. Right? So if we look at this sentence, 告诉 just means to tell. So you could say that in a simple sense, this sentence is just 我告诉你. That just means I tell you. Now, once you say 我就告诉你, now it means I only told you. From the speaker's perspective, that's a small quantity. It's just you, right? And then you expand it to the full sentence. 这个秘密我就告诉你了. I only told you about this secret. And this is a usage of 就 that is a subjective experience of the speaker. They think this isn't a lot of people that I've told. I've only told you. And the 就 it's mostly a feeling that it's expressing. Let's give another example. You have a subject, 我, me, and an action or event, 工作. Okay, so there we have a basic sentence, 我工作, I work. That's fine. That's actually a full sentence on its own. Now, when we look at this longer sentence, we can start off with 我工作, I work. 我工作了一个月. I worked 1 month. In this case, there's no feeling implied to it. It's just a statement of fact. I worked 1 month. But if you say 我就工作了一个月, here we can see that it's saying I've only worked for a month, right? So in this case, if you've only worked for a month, the speaker feels that this isn't that long. And then the full sentence, 我在这家公司就工作了一个月. I have only worked for 1 month at this company. So a lot of times people will get confused because they don't break the sentence down enough. Start with the subject and the action or event, and then just keep building it until you understand how 就 is functioning. Let's give another example. But this time we're going to switch 就 and the subject. In this case, the subject might be 你, and the action or event is 来, come. So 你来 would just mean you come. And if you say 你一个人来, that just means come on your own. And if I say 就你一个人来, that would mean only you come on your own. And then finally, if you have 今天就你一个人来吗? Are you the only one coming today? The function of 就 in this sentence is to express that the speaker feels that this isn't a lot of people, right? Maybe they invited a bunch of people to their party and only one person showed up. 今天就你一个人来吗? Like they feel bad about it because they feel that one is a small quantity compared to their expectations, hence why they use 就. How about if you have the subject as Tom and 记得, which means remember. So Tom remembers, or 汤姆记得. Looking at this full sentence, if you just say 汤姆记得, that's Tom remembers, 就汤姆记得. Only Tom remembers, right? So that changes the feeling of it by saying, if Tom remembers something, then okay, sure, Tom remembered. But if only Tom remembered, then that is a feeling of small quantity from the speaker's perspective. 就汤姆记得我的生日. Only Tom remembers my birthday. Shouldn't everybody have remembered my birthday? Only Tom did. That's a small quantity compared to what I expected. So hopefully that expresses how you can use it in that fashion. Now, this is also a very cool way that you can use it to mean a small quantity from the speaker's perspective. Almost all of this is subjective communication. So the subject is 公司, and the small quantity is 5个, or just really a quantity. If you, without 就, it's just a quantity. When you add 就 in between, then it's a small quantity from the speaker's perspective. 我们公司就5个男同事. There are only 5 male colleagues in our company. So from the speaker's perspective, having only 5 male colleagues is a small number. Now, to somebody else, it might be a large number, but in this case, the 就 expresses their subjective opinion about the quantity. Now, what if your subject was 老板 and the small quantity was 一个? And you see a sentence like this. 老板就一个需求 Sorry, 需求要求 My bad. 老板就一个要求 每天按时上下班别迟到 The boss only has one requirement. Show up on time for work every day and don't be late. So in this case, the small quantity is that they only have one requirement. I mean, it's probably an exaggeration, but it's like that whole, like, you had one job to do. There was only one requirement, and that's what's being expressed with 就 in this case. So there's how you can use 就 to express some small quantities, but how might you use it to express that from your perspective, something feels as though it is early, or that it doesn't take very long? Well, that's where we're going to use 就 and compare it with its opposite, 才. So if you have a subject plus a time plus 就, that means that the subject feels the time is early or not long. On the contrary, if you have subject plus time plus 才, that means the subject feels the time is late or long. Here's some examples. 我今天早上6点就来公司了，大家都不在。I came to the office at 6 a.m. today, and no one was here. Now, in the translation, you can't tell that the person feels that this is early, and that's kind of a feature of Chinese. You can add in a quick subjective expression by adding 就 in this case, and if it comes right after a time, then you know that they're saying they think that 6 o'clock is early. Someone else might say, 我今天早上9点才来公司。其他人都到了. I didn't arrive at the office until 9 a.m. today. So in this case, the 才 is getting expressed with until, right? It's sort of similar there. And that says that the speaker feels that 9 o'clock is early. Here's another example. 电影8点就开场了，我们要抓紧时间出门. The movie starts at 8, so we need to hurry and leave. This person thinks there's not much time. They have to move now. 抓紧时间, that's a great word. It means like grab tightly the time. It just means get a move on, right? And so this person feels that 8 o'clock is late and there's not that much time. You could say the exact same thing. 电影8点才开场，我们可以去商场转转。The movie doesn't start until 8, so we can stroll around the mall. Now, these sentences don't say what time it is now. What they say is how the speaker feels about it, right? So they feel, oh, we've got until 8. Let's take a stroll around the mall, right? So you can see how that comparison is entirely subjective from the speaker. Here's one where it definitely means like not long or very long. 从我家到电影院开车1小时就到了。It only takes an hour to drive from my house to the cinema. Now, somebody else might think an hour to drive to the cinema is a long time, but this person feels that, yeah, it's only an hour. And by the way, this is just a subjective experience having lived in China for as long as I have. In my experience, Chinese people feel that the amount of time it takes to get somewhere is a longer amount of time they consider to be not long. So in America, I've always found that like if something takes more than an hour, that's a bit of a drive. And in China, if it takes less than 3 hours, they're like, it's nothing. So it's kind of an interesting sort of cultural difference there. Now, the same person might say, 从我家到电影院开车3小时才到. It takes a 3-hour drive to get to the cinema from my house. And the 才 is indicating that they feel like this is a long time, right? So it's subjective, but look out for a time followed by 就 or 才 to indicate how the speaker feels about it in terms of earliness or late or long or not long. So let's now talk about 4 words where it kind of has the function of meaning getting closer to someone or something, and we'll cover these 4 words. Once again, these are kind of formal, but some of them are quite useful. 就 get closer to, 近 close. Well, probably no surprise that 就近 means nearby. Now, interestingly, you can use it in a couple of ways. 大家都饿了，我们就近找个餐馆吃饭吧。Everyone is hungry. Let's find a restaurant nearby to eat. Now, I'll get back to this sentence, but let's look at the next one. 我想找个就近的公司上班。I want to find a nearby company to work at. Now, the difference here is about what 就近 modifies. In the first sentence, 就近 directly modifies the verb 找 to find, and it means to find nearby. In the second sentence, 就近的 describes the noun 公司, indicating a nearby company. So it's more of like an adjective usage there. One focuses on the action, the other on the location, but they both essentially mean the same thing. It's just important to know sometimes when you can use a word in a kind of adverb function or an adjective function, because it's very easy to use them in the wrong way. Now, are you going to remember that by memorizing this rule? No, you're going to remember that by seeing a lot of sentences and that have 就近 inside of them, and then you will naturally pick it up. I say this in every one of these presentations, but it's important to reiterate. What you're watching now is a supplemental video that helps you understand 就. Supplements are great. I don't think that it's a bad idea to take fish oil every day to supplement your diet, but you still have to consume food. And the consumption in this analogy is comprehensible input of Chinese. So while I'm very excited to give you this supplement in this video today, and I'm enjoying it immensely, I don't want you to think that this replaces the consumption of Chinese. It's merely meant to help you notice it more often when you're consuming. So, standard caveat applies as usual. Now, how about this word? I like this one a lot. 就着. To get closer to and with, well, this actually means to eat with or do with, and it's most often used in the context of food. Something goes with something else in terms of food, and this will be the perfect example. 红酒必须就着奶酪喝，才能喝出酒的香。Red wine must be drunk with cheese to fully enjoy its flavor. So in this case, it's the red wine 就着奶酪, right? So you have the combination of the two. They go well together. And you could use this in other contexts like do with, but I just find that Chinese people tend to use this most often with things that go together in food. 迁就. So 迁 means to shift or move, and 就 means closer. This actually means to accommodate. An interesting interpretation to be sure, but you could imagine it metaphorically. The closer you are to someone's needs, the more likely you are to be accommodating. 太过迁就别人，反而会得不到大家的尊重. So in this case, over accommodating others can lead to losing their respect. And by the way, look at that at the beginning, we did that presentation on 过 a few weeks ago. 太过迁就别人, that means over, crossing, being too much in the accommodation. So I like that. That's pretty neat. Now this is a word that you actually may use in your day-to-day life, even as an intermediate, which is 将就. Now, 将, this character has a bunch of usages, but one of them is to say like barely or just. So just barely get close to, well, this means make do with. 将就. You'll use it in many different contexts, but here's one example. 这里没有什么好酒店，咱们只能先将就一晚. There aren't any good hotels here, so we'll have to make do 将就 for the night. Very useful word. Hey, we all have to make do sometimes, so 将就 is the word you're going to want to use in that moment. So there's a few instances in which 就 means getting closer to someone or something, but consider this. The most important usage of 就, in my opinion, is in conditional statements. The most common being if this then that, but alongside if this then that, we'll cover a few different conditional usages. One will be even if something and as long as. If you want to express as long as a condition is met, then the result will happen. You want to use 只要就. So you put 只要 and then you insert some condition, 就 the result. So let's give some examples. 只要我们不放弃，就一定能达成目标. As long as we don't give up, we will definitely achieve our goal. So the condition is 我们不放弃, we don't give up. As long as that happens, then we will definitely achieve our goal. That's the result. 达成目標, that's the result. And this is a very, very common structure that you'll find is very useful in many instances. Like people are like, I'm not sure about this, I'm not sure about that. And you just say, hey, as long as this condition is met, you don't need to worry. 只要路上不堵车，我们就不会迟到。As long as there's no traffic on the road, we won't be late. I mean, how often do we have to say that in life? We're looking at a time and we're like, oh, we got 20 minutes. Well, as long as there's no traffic, we won't be late. How about this one? 只要跟他在一起，我就特别开心。As long as I'm with him, I am super happy. Oh, youth. Now, here's one that's probably the most common. 如果就. So this is just the if this, then that function. There's some hypothetical situation, and if that hypothetical situation comes true, then 就 there's an action in response of some kind. If this, then that. And you could also say 要是 plus hypothetical plus 就, but for these examples, I'll just use 如果明天天气好，我们就去公园玩。If the weather is good tomorrow, we'll go to the park and play. So the condition, the hypothetical situation is that the weather will be good tomorrow. We can't be sure, the weather always changes, but if that condition is met, then we'll go to the park to play. 如果我中了彩票，就把这辆车买下来送给你。If I win the lottery, I'll buy this car for you. And by the way, this is a very useful usage of the character 中, because it's normally pronounced 中, but when you hit a target of some kind, whether it's in darts or like hitting the lottery, it's pronounced 中. So 中彩票 would mean to win the lottery. So what's the condition here? What's the hypothetical? The hypothetical is I win the lottery. And so in that context, sure, I'll buy this car for you, right? 如果早点出发，我们就能赶上最后一班火车。If we leave earlier, we can catch the last train. So what's the hypothetical? Leave earlier. And then if that's the case, then the result is we can catch the train, the last train. So you'll use these types of if-then statements all the time. Now, there's one more conditional I want to show you about, which is 就算. Now, in this case, 就算 is a word, but you'll see how it still fits that sort of hypothetical conditional statement. So in this case, we have 就算 plus a hypothetical plus a plan, and it means even if some situation happens, still go forward with the plan. 就算失败了，我也不会放弃努力. Even if I fail, I won't give up trying. And you'll notice here we have 也，我也不会放弃努力. That is kind of the representation of still here. So even if I fail, I still won't give up my hard work. 就算他不问我，我也应该尽快把钱还给他. Even if she doesn't ask me, I should return the money to her as soon as possible. So she doesn't ask, she's never pressuring you to give the money back, but you're just saying, hey, even if that happens, I'm still going to do my plan of returning the money. 就算艾比不在家，我也会把她的房间打扫干净. Even if Abby isn't home, I'll clean her room. What a nice person. So there are a few conditional statements with 就, and this is probably the most common usage and the one that you will find most practical in day-to-day life. But let's look at this one because this one is also super useful. This is chaining events together, and you use it with 一就. So with 一, you put that before some event, and then 就 before another event, and we're saying as soon as event 1 happens, event 2 will happen. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean absolutely immediately, but you'll get the sense of it in this first sentence. 秋天已到，树叶就都变黄了. As soon as autumn arrives, so 秋天一到，树叶就都变黄了. That the leaves turn yellow. So it's not literally like, okay, September 21st arrives and the leaves all go from green to yellow instantly. It's not like that. But what it is like is that you have a series of events that happen where one follows the other. And then sometimes it is more immediate. For example, 他一回家就把自己锁在房子里. As soon as he gets home, he locks himself in the room. So in this case, there's an implication that he's like, he comes in the door and he immediately goes to his room and locks himself in there. 我一看到好吃的就忍不住流口水. As soon as I see something delicious, I can't help but drool. So in this case, it's the one action is seeing something and then instantly drooling over their hunger. So the 依旧 construction, you'll use it all the time and look out for it when you're consuming Chinese. Now here's a really useful one, using 就 for freedom and flexibility. So it's just saying, if I want to do something, just do it. Now the structure here is 想, which means to want to, plus verb, plus 就, plus the same verb, and it means if one wants to do verb, just do verb. And let's give some examples. 你想买就买，不用考虑价格. If you want to buy it, just buy it. No need to worry about the price. Or how about this one? 我把车钥匙给你，你想开就开. I'll give you the car keys. If you want to drive, just drive. And by the way, that's an example of 开车 means to drive a car, but in that word, 开车, it literally means drive car. So therefore you can extract 开 out of that and just have that as the general verb for drive. 开 is a verb that has a bunch of different meanings, but in this context, when we're talking about a car key, when they say 你想开就开, you can clearly understand they're talking about drive. You want to drive, just drive. 我一般想吃就吃，不控制体重. Usually if I want to eat, I eat. I don't control my weight. So once again, we're talking about the idea of 想 action, 就 action. And that means if I want to do it, I'm just going to do it. Very useful, and you'll see this all the time, especially when this is a very casual way of speaking. And it's kind of interesting how when 就 is in compound words of 2 or more characters, it does tend to be more formal. But when it's used in a more grammatical function like this, it can be very casual. So this is part of the reason why people get somewhat confused about 就. But once again, take what you're learning in this supplemental lesson and see if you can identify the different usages as you're working through your consumption. Now, finally, let's talk about the if it ain't this, it's that function. Now, in this case, you're going to use 不是 plus possibility 1, 就是 possibility 2. And if it's not possibility 1, then it's possibility 2. Hey, if it ain't this, it's that. If he ain't complaining, he's just, I don't know. It's that idea of like, there's only 2 possibilities here. 墨尔本的冬天不是刮风就是下雨，非常不舒适. In winter in Melbourne, if it's not windy, it's rainy. It's very uncomfortable. I've never been to Melbourne, so don't get mad. This is written by my Chinese assistant, Catherine. She did a great job, and I assume she's been to Melbourne, and this is her opinion. These opinions do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Mandarin Blueprint. 你每天不是迟到，就是早退。公司正式向你提出警告. Right, so in this case, what we're saying is there is one thing that you might be doing, which is being late. Another, and if it's not late, it's that you leave early. So we're giving you an official warning here as the company. Generally speaking, this doesn't have to be literally true, right? It's like you could be saying this and it's just a feeling that you have. It's like, if you're not late, you're leaving early, right? So you just have a sense of it, even if it's not technically true. 昨天的派对上，大家不是唱歌，就是跳舞，开心极了. At yesterday's party, if folks weren't singing, they were dancing. It was a blast. Right, so once again, there's one possibility, 唱歌. Oh, you're not doing that one? Well, then you must be doing the other one, 跳舞, dancing. So this gives you an example of how to use if it ain't this, it's that, the 不是，就是. And we've covered a lot of great stuff today. We covered how to unlock a quick and easy way to jumpstart any action, how to express small quantities, how to use 就 to express a feeling of something being early or not long with its comparison to the opposite 才, how to get closer to someone or something, the if this then that conditional statements, even if, still, as long as, then, chaining events together with 依旧, freedom and flexibility with 想 verb 就 verb, 想买就买, and if it ain't this, it's that with 不是 something, 就是 something else. So for those of you watching live, the Q&A is next. And if you're catching this on YouTube and you're feeling like you don't want to miss out on the live action, we've got you covered. Join our free community and be a part of the next live event where you can ask your burning questions, get direct answers, and interact with us and other dedicated Mandarin learners in real time. The link is in the description below. Jump in and let's keep leveling up your Chinese skills together. 感激不尽，再见。